Welcome, ladies. You're listening to the Girls Only podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Non-binary people are trans. Non-binary people can be trans. And for those of you all who don't understand how, let me be very clear that transness is indeed an umbrella.
All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of the TGOS podcast. Let me start by saying this episode is inspired by a debate I had with Hope Giselle. During our conversation, Hope made the statement that non-binary people are trans. Now, I respect her perspective, but I completely disagree with that. And I think it's important to explain why. Okay, so let's start with what does it mean to be trans? The word transgender means you are transitioning from one gender to another. You need an example? Let me give you one. A trans woman is someone who was assigned male at birth but knows she's a woman and live her life as one. Being trans involves a process, a transition. This could mean changing your appearance, taking hormones, having surgeries, or even legally changing your name or gender marker. Now, girl, on the other hand, non-binary people is completely different. Non-binary people don't identify strictly as male or female. They live outside that system. Hold on, let me give you an example. A non-binary person might feel like a man one day, a woman the next, or neither the day after that. That's not transitioning. That's called fluidity. Now, let me tell you why people need to pay attention. Because non-binary identities are not trans. I've spoken with a lot of non-binary people. And they say, one day I feel like a woman, the next day I feel like a man, and sometimes I don't feel like either. That alone proves they are not trans. Being trans is about transitioning from one gender to another. If you don't feel like either gender, or you move between them day by day, girl, that's not transitioning. And that's not trans. But what gets me is when y'all say, okay, but non-binary people, they are trans. And y'all feel like me as a trans person, I am not supposed to be offended by that. Girl, I don't gender swap. I am a woman. I've always been a woman. I live my life as a woman. I don't wake up one day and think I'm a man. And I don't wake up one day and say, I'm not neither one of these things. No, I am a woman. Like, there's no way for me to remove anything from my body, from within me, how I feel, the emotions, the nature of how I feel about things. I can't remove it. So the reason why we need to understand this distinction is because lumping non-binary people with trans people, it makes things confusing and it erases their unique identities. Hold on, because I know some of y'all looking at me like, girl, what? Let me break it down a little bit more for you. So let me break this down so that it could be a little bit more understanding for you guys. Non-binary is about being fluid, not transitioning. Non-binary people don't feel tied to one gender. They may say, I'm neither, or I feel male today, or I feel female tomorrow. That's not the same as transitioning to live fully as a man or a woman, which is what trans people are doing. So that is not what we are doing. So when you are saying transition, we are transitioning from male to female not because we don't believe in neither group, or not because one day we feel like a man and the next day we feel like a woman. When we are transitioning, Let me put everything in my terms. When I am transitioning saying that I was born in the wrong body. Something's ain't right. Everything is all off. Everything is off the chart. This is wrong. It's deep within me. I cannot really explain it. I am moving from one gender to another. I'm not saying I don't agree with neither gender. I'm not saying that one day I believe I am a man, the next day I believe that I am a woman. I am saying that I am a woman. I was supposed to be a woman, and something went wrong. That is what you are saying when you are trans. Basically, you are saying something went wrong. It's everything within you just tells you that. When you are non-binary, you are just not anchored down to one gender, one role, one thing only. It is fluid. It can go between one or the other. So it depends on how you feel. It depends on your emotion. It depends on your emotional stress. It depends on depression. It depends on what is going on in that moment when you are non-binary. So there's a lot that goes on to it. With trans is very specific. I am specifically saying that I am not male. I am specifically stating that I am a woman. I am specifically changing from male to female. This is something, this is why I said this is something that you cannot change. This is something that you cannot stop. Now, I know some of y'all are looking at me like, okay, you keep saying the word fluid. What does fluid mean? Okay, when we say fluid in the context of non-binary people, I'm talking about their gender identity isn't fixed. It can change over time, even day by day. Okay, girl, you still looking confused? Let me give you another example. Someone who is gender fluid might feel like a woman one day, a man the next, and sometimes they don't feel like either. It's like a water taking the shape of whatever container it's in. Fluidity is about movement. It's about flexibility, not being tied to one identity. Okay, maybe you still don't get it with that example, so let me give you another one. Imagine someone wakes up one day and says, I'm feeling a little bit more connected to my feminine side today. So they dress and express themselves in a way that feels more feminine. Maybe the next day they say, I'm feeling a little bit more masculine today. So they adjust how they present themselves to match that. That's what it means to be fluid. It's about shifting between different identities based on how you feel in that moment. Fluidity is unique to the non-binary experience. And it's one of the key differences between being a non-binary person and a trans person. Trans is about transitioning to a fixed identity. Okay, girl, now you're looking at me like you don't know what a fixed identity is or what it means to have a fixed identity. Now, when I say trans is a fixed identity, I am saying trans people are committed to aligning their gender identity with who they are. That's man or woman. And when we say man or woman, we're talking about your trans women and your trans men. It's not something that could change day by day. A trans woman isn't a man some days and a woman on others. She's a woman, full stop. Girl, you can't go back. Can't go past go. That's a big difference. And it's why these terms shouldn't be grouped together. And this is why non-binary shouldn't be a part of trans. If someone says, I don't feel like either gender, or I switch between feeling male or female, they're making it clear that they don't align with the trans experience. Trans is about moving from one side to the other, male to female, or female to male. Non-binary is saying, I'm not in that system at all, and you cannot tie me down, hold me down, or put me in that box. So before we head to the conclusion, I want to give you guys a couple of examples just to make sure that you guys understand the conversation and the breakdowns that I just gave, because I am also someone who listens to a lot of podcasts, and I am also someone who listens to podcasts that use a lot of big words like and you be sitting here like, what? Those are not real words. I'm just joking. But you be sitting there like, girl, what do you mean? So you have to pause it, go look that word up, or they may go into depth or say things in a way and you fully don't understand. But on this podcast, I want you girls to understand what I am talking about. So I would make sure that I would go deeper into it to where you understand it. I am also someone who goes and do my homework. So before I come on the topic, even though that I am trans and I can speak from this from a trans perspective, girl, I'm gibber mouth right now. I want you to understand what I mean and what I am saying. So I am writing down different things. I am breaking into it. I am going into different examples and giving you an examples of what I mean. And that's what this podcast is all about. Trying to shut down the misinformation and bringing trans women and women together so that we can understand, because a lot of this stuff and a lot of issues that we having is because a lot of us do not truly understand what is being said or what is going on or what the topic is on. And that is what this podcast is about. I want you to understand, and I will break it down as much as possible. So let's go ahead and get into these examples I got, and then we'll move on to the conclusions. Okay, so for example, bathrooms. A trans woman wants access to women's restrooms because they live and they are women. On the other hand, non-binary people might be okay with gender-neutral options. These are different needs, and you can't just treat them like they're the same thing, because they're not. My second example is legal documents. A trans woman needs her ID to say female. On the other hand, a non-binary person might want an X marker. These are separate issues that require separate solutions. When you are speaking about a gender marker, that's a part of that transition that I said that you cannot stop. When I wanted to get my gender marker changed, that's something that I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop the process. I just didn't feel complete until I had that done. Once I had that done, that was like a step closer to who I truly am. So when I got it done, it made me feel so good. I felt seen and I felt heard. So my third example is community understanding. A trans woman is about aligning her life with her female identity. On the other hand, a non-binary person journey is about rejecting the binary system altogether. When you are lumping them together, you will lose sight of both. There's an irreversible nature of being trans. Remember how I told you is something within me that just can't stop. I can't stop. It moves on its own. It shifts on its own. And I just can't explain it. But I just can't stop being a woman. I can't just stop being who I am. Okay, let me break it down and make it easy for you, because I'm trying to get you to understand how trans is a process that can't be stopped. It just keep going. Think about it like a little girl who gets her first period. That is a moment of change in her body that can't be stopped. Once it starts, it's a permanent shift, and her body is now on the path of womanhood, and there's no going back. That's the same thing with being trans. When a trans person starts their transition, whether it's them doing their hormones second or their surgeries first, or maybe they want to do their legal changes third, it's a process that aligns them with who they truly are. It's not something they go back and forth on. Just like a little girl body naturally moves into womanhood, a trans woman transition is a process of becoming fully herself. It's permanent and defining. Now, on the other hand, non-binary doesn't work like that. Non-binary people aren't committing to one identity or one process. They're saying, I don't fit in that system and I move fluidity. That's why non-binary cannot and should not be grouped with trans identities. I hope you understand that. In conclusion, this isn't about invalidating anyone. It's about clarity. Trans women, trans men, and non-binary people all deserve respect. But we can't pretend their experiences are the same. Non-binary identities are about living outside the male and female system. Trans identities are about transitioning from one gender to another. When we take the time to understand and respect these differences, we can better support everyone in the ways they need to be supported. And remember, ladies, when we take the time to bridge the gap between us, we open the door to love, understanding, and true sisterhood. I need you to remember you are beautiful, you are powerful, and you are worthy of every happiness this world has to offer. Don't ever let anyone take your joy or your strength away. I need you to stand tall, keep fighting, and know that you are never alone. We need each other, and together we're unstoppable. But let's also remember to pause, have real conversation, and create space to understand and uplift one another. I need you to take care of your mental health, prioritize your peace, and always pour into yourself first so you can pour into others. Thank you for listening to the Girls Only Secret podcast. I'm here for you, rooting for you, and can't wait to continue this journey with you. Until next time, keep shining, keep loving, and keep growing. And we out. Hold up. Where you think you're going? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.